You know what? Right now, you're probably screwing yourself over, and you don't even know it. Every time you blame your boss, your parents, your lousy childhood, or that idiot who cut you off in traffic, you're making yourself weaker. I'm Albert Ellis, and I spent 50 years as a psychologist watching people torture themselves with one simple mistake. They think blaming others protects them. It doesn't. It cripples them. And in the next 25 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why your brain loves playing the blame game and how it's stealing your power every single day. Look, I'm not going to tell you that people haven't wronged you. Maybe they have. Maybe your parents were terrible. Maybe your ex was cruel. Maybe your boss is unfair. I'm not here to gaslight you or tell you to think positive. That's nonsense. What I'm going to show you is this: blaming others, even when you're completely right, gives you a temporary emotional payoff that costs you your long-term power. And your brain is addicted to that payoff. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why blame feels so satisfying, the hidden psychological trick that keeps you hooked, and most importantly, how to break free without pretending bad things didn't happen to you. This isn't about forgiveness or letting people off the hook. This is about taking your power back. Because right now, you're giving it away every single day. So let me start by explaining something that most people don't realize. Your brain is literally addicted to blaming. And I mean that almost literally. When you blame someone else for your problems, your brain gets a hit of relief that feels fantastic. It's like a drug. And just like any drug, the more you use it, the more you need it, and the weaker you become. Here's how it works. Something goes wrong in your life. You lose your job. Your relationship falls apart. You feel anxious or depressed. And immediately, your brain experiences discomfort. Real discomfort. There's cognitive dissonance, shame, fear, anxiety, all these uncomfortable feelings flooding your system. Your brain doesn't like that. Your brain wants relief. And the fastest way to get relief? Blame someone else. The moment you say, it's my boss's fault, it's my ex's fault, it's my parents' fault, boom. Instant relief. The discomfort drops. You feel better. It's like taking a painkiller. Works fast, feels good, but here's the problem. It doesn't heal the underlying issue. The problem is still there. You just numbed yourself to it for a minute, and your brain learns from this. Your brain is a learning machine. It notices blame equals relief. So the next time something goes wrong, what does your brain do? It immediately looks for someone to blame, because it knows that's where the good feeling comes from. You're literally training yourself to be a blamer. You're conditioning your own brain to reach for blame the way an addict reaches for a bottle. But wait, it gets worse, because there's a secondary pleasure that comes with blame. It's not just relief from discomfort. It's also the pleasure of righteous indignation. You get to feel morally superior. I'm the victim here. I'm the good person. They're the problem. They're the bad guy. And that feels amazing. That's a dopamine hit. That's your brain rewarding you for being right, for being innocent, for being the hero of your own story. We become addicted to the story of our own innocence. Think about it. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head where you explained to someone exactly how they wronged you? How many hours have you spent imagining the perfect comeback, the perfect explanation of why you were right and they were wrong? Every time you do that, you're getting a little hit of that righteous indignation drug, and it feels so good. Now here's what makes this particularly seductive. Often you're right. The other person did do something wrong. Your boss was unfair. Your ex was cruel. Your parents were neglectful. So the blame feels justified. And when blame feels justified, it's even more addictive. Because now you get to be right and feel relief. Double reward. Your brain loves this. It starts seeking opportunities to blame because it knows the payoff is coming. I had a client named Sarah. Sarah blamed her mother for her anxiety. And you know what? She was right. Her mother was critical, demanding, impossible to please. Absolutely true. But Sarah spent 5 years in therapy with me talking about how terrible her mother was. 5 years, session after session, recounting the ways her mother had failed her, hurt her, damaged her. And her anxiety? Still there, just as bad as when she started. Maybe worse. I finally said to her, Sarah, I have a question. What is all this blaming getting you? She looked at me like I was crazy. She said, what do you mean? It's true. My mother did this to me. I said, I'm not asking if it's true. I'm asking what it's getting you. She thought about it. And then she said, honestly, nothing. I said, exactly. So let's try something different. Because here's what was happening with Sarah, and here's what's probably happening with you. While you're blaming, you're not problem solving. While you're focused on their wrong, you're not building your strength. The relief you get from blame is temporary. It lasts maybe a few minutes, maybe a few hours. But the powerlessness, that's permanent. That lasts as long as you keep blaming. Think of it like this. It's like treating a broken leg with morphine. The morphine stops the pain, which feels great. But the leg? Still broken. And if you keep taking morphine instead of setting the bone, instead of doing the physical therapy, instead of learning to walk again, you'll be in pain forever. The morphine doesn't fix anything. It just makes you not care for a while. That's what blame does. It makes you not care about fixing the problem. It makes you focus on who's at fault instead of what you can do. And every time you do that, you become more dependent on that external validation of your victimhood. You start needing other people to agree with you that you were wronged. You tell your story over and over to friends, to family, to anyone who'll listen because you need them to confirm, yes, you're the victim. Yes, they're the bad guy. Yes, you have every right. And while you're doing all that, your actual life isn't changing one bit. Now, you might be thinking, but Albert, what if they really did screw me over? What if it really is their fault? Good question. And that brings me to the most dangerous belief you probably have right now. It's what I call the if-only trap. And it's keeping you stuck in a way you don't even realize. The if-only trap sounds like this. If only my spouse were different, I'd be happy. If only my parents had raised me better, I wouldn't have these problems. If only my boss appreciated me, I'd feel fulfilled. If only they would apologize, I could move on. You see the pattern? Every single one of these statements places your power in someone else's hands. And here's the thing. It seems like you're identifying the problem correctly. And often, you are identifying a real problem. Your spouse might be difficult. Your parents might have failed you. Your boss might be unfair. But there's a massive difference between identifying a problem and giving that problem power over your life. You can be 100% right about who wronged you and still be 100% powerless to change your situation. Let me say that again because it's important. You can be completely right about who hurt you and completely stuck in your life at the same time. Being right doesn't set you free. It just makes you a right prisoner. When you fall into the if-only trap, you're essentially waiting. You're waiting for them to change, to apologize, to understand, to suffer consequences. And meanwhile, your life is on hold. I call this parking yourself in hell while you wait for someone else to fix it. And let me tell you, it's a long wait. Because most of the time, they're not coming. They're not going to change. They're not going to apologize. They're not going to suddenly realize what they did to you. And even if they do, even if you get exactly what you're waiting for, it rarely satisfies you the way you think it will. I worked with a man, let's call him Tom. Tom was convinced his life would be better if his father apologized for being absent during his childhood. His father was 80 years old and had never apologized for anything in his entire life. So Tom, at 50 years old, was still waiting, still angry, still stuck, still playing out conversations in his head where his father finally understood, finally said, I'm sorry, finally validated Tom's pain. I asked him, Tom, how's that working for you? He said, it's not, but he should apologize. I said, should according to whom? Should according to what law of the universe? Your father is 80. He's been the same person for 8 decades. What makes you think he's going to change now? Tom said, because it's the right thing to do. I said, okay, but the universe doesn't enforce your version of right. The universe doesn't care about your shoulds. And that's what you're really doing when you blame. You're outsourcing your emotional well-being to people who probably don't care or can't change. You're making your happiness conditional on factors outside your control. This is what I call masturbation. You're insisting the world must be different before you can be okay. They must apologize. They must understand. They must change. They must suffer. And the world? The world doesn't give a damn about your musts. Think of it like sitting in a prison cell, holding the key in your hand, but refusing to use it because the guard should let you out. You're technically right. The guard should let you out. That's their job. But while you're sitting there waiting for should, you're still in the damn cell. You could walk out right now, but you won't because you're too busy being right about who should open the door. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, Albert, so if blame keeps us stuck, why is it so hard to stop? Why does my brain fight me every time I try to let go? That's because of what I call the justice obsession. And it's running your life right now, whether you know it or not. Here's the deal. Humans have a deep-seated need for fairness and justice. It's hardwired into us. It's evolutionary. When you're treated unfairly, your brain sounds alarm bells. This system exists to protect you. Back in tribal times, if someone in your tribe screwed you over, you needed to know. You needed to remember. You needed to make sure everyone else knew too, so they'd help enforce fairness. But in modern life, this system backfires catastrophically. Because modern life is full of unfairness that you can't fix, can't control, and can't escape. Your boss is unfair. Traffic is unfair. The economy is unfair. Your childhood was unfair. And your brain keeps sounding those alarm bells, insisting that this unfairness must be corrected, must be punished, must be balanced. So you become a scorekeeper. You keep mental records of wrongs. You rehearse arguments in your head. You imagine confrontations. You fantasize about the moment they finally get it, the moment they realize what they did, the moment karma catches up with them. And every time you rehearse that fantasy, you're reinforcing the neural pathway. You're literally training your brain to stay angry, to stay focused on the injustice, to keep demanding that the scales be balanced. And here's the really seductive part. Those fantasies feel good. Imagining them apologizing feels good. Imagining them suffering feels good. Imagining yourself finally being vindicated, finally being proven right, feels amazing. It's another form of the blame drug. You're getting high on imaginary justice. But here's the truth. Even when you get vindication, it rarely satisfies you the way you think it will. I've seen this hundreds of times. Someone finally gets that apology they've been waiting for, and you know what happens? They feel empty, or they move the goalposts. Well, they apologized, but they didn't really mean it. Or they apologize, but it's too late. The apology doesn't undo the damage. Why? Because the problem was never really about them. The problem was about your insistence that reality must match your preferences. Your insistence that people must behave the way you think they should. Your insistence that life must be fair. Let me tell you about a client I had. She was suing her former business partner, and she was right. He'd screwed her over, stolen from the company, lied to investors. Legitimate grievances. But the lawsuit consumed 3 years of her life. 3 years of legal fees, depositions, stress, sleepless nights, constant anger. She talked about nothing else. Every conversation somehow came back to how terrible he was, how he was going to pay, how she was going to win. She won the lawsuit, got a judgment for $50,000. You know what he paid? Zero. He declared bankruptcy. She spent 3 years and probably $40,000 in legal fees to prove she was right. Was she right? Absolutely. Was she free? Not even close. Because while she was obsessed with justice, she was burning mental energy. Energy that could have been building a new business, improving her relationships, developing new skills, enjoying her life. Instead, it was all spent replaying past hurts and imagining future vindication. She was paying rent on a grudge that owned her. And that's the cost of justice-seeking that nobody talks about. It feels righteous. It feels like you're standing up for yourself. But you're not. You're tying yourself to the person who hurt you. You're giving them real estate in your head, rent-free, 24 hours a day. You think you're hurting them with your anger. You're not. You're hurting yourself. And they're probably at brunch, not thinking about you at all. Demanding justice from someone who wronged you is like drinking poison and waiting for them to die. You think your anger, your resentment, your blame is a weapon pointed at them. It's not. It's pointed at you. And you're pulling the trigger every single day. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Because there's one type of blame that's even more dangerous than blaming others. And almost everyone does it without realizing. It's self-blame. And it's the dark side of the same coin. Some people, when things go wrong, don't blame others. They blame themselves. Mercilessly. I'm such an idiot. I always screw up. I'm unlovable. I'm broken. There's something fundamentally wrong with me. This feels different from blaming others, but functionally, it's identical. Both keep you focused on fault instead of solution. Both keep you powerless. Self-blame often feels productive. It feels like you're being mature, like you're taking responsibility. At least I'm not making excuses. At least I'm holding myself accountable. But there's a huge difference between responsibility and blame. Huge. And most people don't understand this distinction. Responsibility says, I contributed to this. What can I do differently next time? Blame says, I'm defective. I deserve this suffering. See the difference? One looks forward. One looks backward. One empowers. One paralyzes. Self-blame often has a hidden payoff. It can be a form of control. If it's my fault, then I can fix it by being perfect. But perfection is impossible, so you stay stuck in this cycle of failure and self-punishment. Self-blame can also be a shield. If I beat myself up enough, maybe others won't. It's preemptive self-punishment to avoid rejection. I worked with a woman who blamed herself for her divorce. I wasn't pretty enough, attentive enough, sexy enough. If I'd just been better, he wouldn't have left. Was she perfect? No. Was it all her fault? Of course not. Relationships are complicated. Two people contribute to every dynamic. But she tortured herself daily with this narrative of her own inadequacy. I asked her, what does blaming yourself get you? She said, nothing. I said, exactly. So let's figure out what you do want in your next relationship and build toward that. What kind of partner do you want to be? Not perfect, not flawless. Just who do you want to be? That was the moment everything changed for her. Because she stopped asking whose fault is this and started asking, what do I want to create? And that's the key. That's the third option that most people don't even know exists. It's what I call radical responsibility without blame. You can take full responsibility for your life, for your choices, for your next move, without blaming yourself or anyone else. This is revolutionary. Most people think it's one or the other. Either it's their fault or it's my fault. But there's a third way. Radical responsibility asks, what's my next move? Blame asks, whose fault is this? One empowers you. One paralyzes you. You can acknowledge mistakes without condemning yourself as a mistake. You can admit you contributed to a problem without deciding you're fundamentally broken. If you're driving and you take a wrong turn, you have two options. You can sit there screaming, I'm such an idiot. How could I be so stupid? I always do this. There's something wrong with me. Or you can check your map and take the next turn. The car doesn't care about your self-flagellation. It doesn't respond to your shame. It only responds to new directions. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. Whether you're blaming others or blaming yourself, you're wasting energy on a question that doesn't help you. Whose fault is this doesn't get you anywhere. What's my next move gets you everywhere. So if blaming others weakens you and blaming yourself weakens you, what's the alternative? How do you actually take your power back without denying reality? That's what I want to show you next. And this is the core of what I call rational emotive behavior therapy. This is the framework that changed everything for thousands of people I worked with, and it can change everything for you. It's built on something I call the ABC model, and it's so simple that people often dismiss it at first. But I'm telling you, if you really get this, if you really understand this, it will change your entire life. Here's how it works. A is the activating event. Something happens. Someone wrongs you. You lose your job. Your partner criticizes you. Whatever. B is your belief about that event. Your thoughts about it. They shouldn't have done that. This is awful. I can't stand this. C is the consequence. Your emotional response. Rage, depression, anxiety, whatever you feel. Now, most people think a cause is C. They think the event causes the emotion. They made me angry. They made me depressed. The situation made me anxious. But that's wrong. Dead wrong. B causes C. Your belief about what happened causes your emotion, not the event itself. This is revolutionary because you can't always control A. You can't control what other people do. You can't control the economy, the weather, your past, other people's choices. But you can control B. You can control your beliefs, your thoughts, your interpretations. And when you change B, C changes automatically. Let me give you an example. Two people get fired from the same job on the same day. Same event. One person thinks, this is terrible. I'm a failure. I'll never find another job. my life is over. That person becomes depressed. The other person thinks, wow, I didn't like that job anyway. This is an opportunity to find something better. I'm glad I'm out of there. That person feels relieved. Maybe same event, different beliefs, different emotions. The event didn't cause the emotion. The belief did. Now, here's where most people's beliefs create suffering. It's in what I call the shoulds. Your brain is full of shoulds. They should be fair. Life should be easy. I should be perfect. People should appreciate me. The world should make sense. And every time reality doesn't match your should, you suffer. But where's the evidence that they should be fair? Where is it written in the laws of the universe that people must treat you fairly? Nowhere. It's not there. Fair is a preference. It's nice when things are fair, but the universe has no obligation to be fair. And when you demand it should be, when you insist it must be, you're setting yourself up for endless suffering. I call this shoulding all over yourself. And people do it constantly. I shouldn't have to deal with this. They should know better. Life shouldn't be this hard. Every should is a demand that reality be different than it is. And reality doesn't care about your demands. So here's what I taught people to do. Dispute the should. When you catch yourself thinking they should have been fair, stop and ask, where's the evidence they should? Do fair people sometimes act unfairly? Yes. Do good people sometimes do bad things? Yes. So clearly, should doesn't mean will. Just because you think someone should behave a certain way doesn't mean they will. Then replace the demand with a preference. I prefer they'd been fair. I wish they had been. But they weren't. And that's reality. This is accepting reality without liking it. And this is crucial. This is not about positive thinking. This is not about pretending bad things are good. It's about acknowledging what is. This happened. I don't like it. I wish it hadn't. But it happened. My boss is unfair. I prefer he weren't. But clearly he is. My childhood was difficult. I wish it weren't. But it was. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means stopping the war with reality. And here's the power shift. When you stop demanding the world be different, you stop being its victim. When you accept reality, you can navigate it. You move from this shouldn't be happening to this is happening. What's my move? That shift from should to is where all your power lives. Early in my career, I was rejected by dozens of journals. Dozens. I could have blamed them. They should recognize my brilliance. They're idiots. They don't understand what I'm doing. I could have blamed myself. I'm not smart enough. I'm a fraud. I don't belong here. Instead, I thought, okay, they rejected it. What's my next move? I kept writing. I kept submitting. I developed REBT. I refined my ideas. I found people who did understand. And eventually, I helped millions of people. Not because reality changed to suit me, but because I stopped demanding it should. I stopped fighting what is and started working with what is. Think of it like rain. If you walk outside and it's raining, you have options. You can scream at the sky. It shouldn't be raining. I have plans. This is unfair. The weather should cooperate with me. Or you can grab an umbrella. The rain doesn't care about your shoulds. It's going to rain anyway. But your response determines whether you stay dry or get soaked. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, Albert, but how do I actually do this when I'm furious at someone? When I'm hurt? When they really did screw me over? Let me give you the practical steps. Because understanding this intellectually is one thing. Doing it when you're angry is another. First, catch the blame thought. The first step is always awareness. You have to notice when you're blaming. Listen for the key words in your head. They made me. If only. It's because of. This is their fault. When you hear those phrases, that's a blame thought. Don't judge yourself for having it. Just notice it. Say to yourself, there's a blame thought. That's it. Just notice. Second, question the payoff. Ask yourself, what is this blame getting me? Be ruthlessly honest. Maybe it's temporary relief. Maybe it's feeling right. Maybe it's avoiding responsibility for my part. Whatever it is, name it. Then ask, what is it costing me? Usually the cost vastly outweighs the benefit. You get 2 minutes of relief and 2 years of being stuck. Is that a good trade? Third, dispute the demand. Identify your should statement. They should have been fair. I should have known better. Life should be easier. Whatever it is. Then challenge it. Where's the evidence they should? Do fair people sometimes act unfairly? Yes. Then clearly, fair people aren't always fair. So the should is just your preference dressed up as a law of nature. Replace it with a preference. I prefer they'd been fair. They weren't. What now? Fourth, and this is crucial, take one small action. Don't just think differently. Act differently. If you've been blaming your boss for your unhappiness at work, what's one thing you can do to improve your situation? Update your resume, have a direct conversation, set a boundary, learn a new skill. It doesn't have to be big, just one small thing that's in your control. Action breaks the spell of powerlessness. Even small action rewires your brain away from victimhood. Because when you act, you're proving to yourself that you have power. You're not waiting for them to change. You're changing what you can change. And fifth, practice self-acceptance. When you catch yourself blaming, whether it's blaming others or blaming yourself, don't pile on more blame. Don't say, there I go again. I'm such a mess, I can't even stop blaming. What's wrong with me? That's just more blame. Instead, try this. I'm a fallible human learning a new skill. This is hard, and I'm working on it. That's it. Compassion accelerates change. Contempt prevents it. I once worked with a guy who blamed his anxiety on his childhood trauma. And it was legitimate trauma. His father was abusive, violent, unpredictable, really terrible. I said, okay, so your father was terrible. Now what? He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, what do you mean now what? He ruined me. I said, no, he hurt you. You're ruining you by staying stuck here. What's one thing you can do today to build the life you want? He started with therapy for PTSD. Then he worked on his parenting so he wouldn't repeat the pattern with his own kids. Then he built a business. Then he improved his marriage. 5 years later, he told me, letting go of blame was the hardest and most liberating thing I ever did. It felt like betraying myself at first. Like I was saying it didn't matter, like I was letting my father off the hook. But then I realized my father was already off the hook. He was never on the hook. The only person I was hooking was myself. Learning not to blame is like building a muscle. The first time you try, it's weak and it fails. You blame someone and you catch yourself an hour later. That's fine. That's progress. Next time, you catch yourself in 10 minutes. Then immediately. Then before you even fully form the thought. Each repetition strengthens the new pathway. Be patient with yourself. This is hard work. Your brain has been practicing blame for years, maybe decades. You're teaching in a new way. That takes time. But I promise you this. Every time you choose power over blame, you get a little bit of yourself back. Every time you accept what is instead of demanding what should be, you get a little bit stronger. Every time you take responsibility without blame, you prove to yourself that you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're the author of your next chapter. And over time, that adds up to a completely different life. Not a perfect life. Not a life where bad things don't happen. But a life where you're not controlled by what other people did or didn't do. A life where you're not waiting for someone else to change so you can finally be happy. A life where you have your power. Look, I've given you a lot today. We covered why blaming others feels good. It gives you instant relief and makes you feel right. But that good feeling is a drug that weakens you every time you take it. We talked about how it keeps you stuck in if-only trap, waiting for other people to change so you can finally be happy. We explored the justice obsession and how it burns your energy and keeps you tethered to your past. We talked about self-blame and how it's not the opposite of blaming others. It's just the same poison turned inward. And we went through the solution. Accept what is without demanding it should be different. Dispute your demands. Take responsibility for your next move without blaming yourself or anyone else for the past. And practice this over and over until the new pathway is stronger than the old one. This is hard work. It's not a quick fix. It's not a hack. Your brain will resist because blame does feel good in the moment. But I promise you this. Every time you choose power over blame, you get a little bit of yourself back. And over time, that adds up to a completely different life. A life where you're free, where you're strong, where you're not controlled by what other people did or didn't do. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 24 hours, catch yourself every time you blame someone, including yourself. Don't try to stop it yet. Just notice it. Notice how often it happens. Notice what it gets you. Notice what it costs you. Awareness is the first step to freedom. You can't change what you don't see. Now, if you found this valuable, there's something else you need to know. Most people think the opposite of blame is forgiveness. It's not. And misunderstanding this keeps people stuck for decades, torturing themselves, trying to forgive people who don't deserve it, and feeling like failures when they can't. In my next video, I'm going to show you what forgiveness actually is, what it isn't, and why you might not need it at all to be free. This one surprises everyone. Click the video on your screen right now, or check the description below. Don't wait. This is the missing piece that makes everything else click. I'll see you there.